The universe is always saying, "Behold, I make all things new." But you have to have the eyes that can see the new. You have to have a mind that hasn't already decided what everything means. We're going to activate that mind today. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. In today's episode, Behold, I make all things new. Activating the beginner's mind. In Revelation 21:5, we are told, "Behold, I make all things new." There's a woman I know who's driven the same route to work for 11 years. Same turn, same stoplights, same billboard advertising, injury lawyers that have been there since she started. Last Tuesday, her usual route was blocked. Construction crew tore up the road, so she took a different way. Had to, there was no choice. And on this detour, 3 blocks from her normal path, she found a coffee shop she'd never seen before. Windows full of light, the smell hit her before she even opened the door. Something about the way they roasted the beans. She went in. The barista knew everyone's name. There was a community board covered in local art events, writing groups, philosophy meetups. She had no idea existed. 3 blocks, 11 years. It had been there the whole time. She told me later that what shook her wasn't just missing the coffee shop. It was the sudden vertigo-inducing realization of how much else she wasn't seeing. How many routes she was driving on autopilot. How many conversations she was having from a script. How many days she was experiencing as reruns of days she'd already lived. She said it felt like waking up inside a dream she didn't know she was having. That's beginner's mind, not the coffee shop discovery. That was just the crack in the shell. Beginner's mind is what happens when you realize that everything you think you know is actually just one way of looking, one angle, one interpretation. And the moment you're willing to look again as if for the first time, reality reorganizes itself around your new seeing. The universe is always saying, "Behold, I make all things new." But you have to have the eyes that can see the new. You have to have a mind that hasn't already decided what everything means. We're going to activate that mind today. Here's what happens the moment you think you know something. It stops being alive. It crystallizes, it becomes fixed. It turns from a living, breathing, infinite possibility into a dead fact that you carry around in your mental filing cabinet. You meet someone, and within 30 seconds, you've decided who they are, categorized them, compared them to people you've met before, predicted how the conversation will go, and from that moment on, you're not actually meeting them, you're meeting your idea of them. You look at your bank account, and you know what that number means. If you got a whole story about that number, and what it says about you, what it limits, what it makes possible or impossible, and that story becomes more real than the actual quantum field of infinite abundance that's trying to express itself through you. You think about your health, your relationships, your career, and you know what's realistic. You know what's possible for someone like you. You know based on past evidence, based on what you've tried before, based on what you've seen others achieve or fail to achieve. And all that knowing, it's a prison. Not because knowledge itself is bad, but because the moment you mistake your knowledge for reality, you've stopped seeing reality. You've seen your map of reality, and the map is never the territory. A child doesn't have this problem yet. When a child encounters something, they're not filtering it through decades of accumulated knowing. They're not comparing it to previous experiences. They're not analyzing it through categories and concepts. They're just beholding it. That word behold, it's not the same as looking. Looking is what you do when you're trying to confirm what you already think. Beholding is what happens when you're open to being astonished. And the thing about being astonished, it's not a passive state. When you're genuinely seeing something new, something shifts in your neurology, in your energy field, in your relationship with the quantum possibilities surrounding you. You become malleable again, teachable, open to solutions you couldn't see before because you weren't looking for them. You already know what was possible. The greatest breakthroughs in any field come from people who were willing to not know, who were willing to look at the same thing everyone else was looking at and see something different, who were willing to question the fundamental assumptions that everyone else took as obvious truth. But we're not taught to do this. We're taught the opposite. We're rewarded for knowing, for having the right answer, for being certain, for demonstrating expertise. And gradually, we become invested in our knowing. That's what happened to me. Our identity gets wrapped up in it. To not know becomes threatening, becomes a sign of weakness, of inadequacy, of being less than. So as we double down, we become more certain, more rigid, more defended against anything that might challenge what we've decided is true. And our reality becomes smaller and smaller and smaller until we're living in a tiny little box made of our own certainty, wondering why nothing ever changes, why we feel stuck, why life has lost its magic. The box is not reality. The box is what you've decided reality is, and you're the only one who can step out of it. Let me tell you how your brain actually works, because this matters for what we're doing here. Your brain is not a camera recording objective reality. Your brain is a prediction machine. It's constantly generating guesses about what it expects to see, hear, feel based on past experience. And then it compares those predictions to incoming sensory data. When the data matches the prediction, your brain barely processes it. It just confirms, yes, this is what I expected, and moves on. Energy efficient, fast, automatic. This is why you can drive home and not remember the drive. Why you can have the same conversation with someone for the 10th time and zone out. Why you can walk into a room and not notice that the furniture has been rearranged. Your brain predicted what would be there, and unless there's a major mismatch, it just runs the prediction instead of actually processing what's present. This is useful for survival. Keeps you from being overwhelmed by the sheer amount of sensory information available in every moment. But it's devastating for transformation, because you're not experiencing reality. You're experiencing your predictions about reality, your expectations, your assumptions, your memories of how things were before. And if your predictions are based on limitation, on lack, on this is just how it is, then you are constructing that limited reality moment by moment by moment through the filter of your expectations. When you generally don't know what you're looking at, when you haven't already decided what it means, your brain has to actually process the incoming data. It has to pay attention. It has to see what's actually there instead of running its stored prediction. And in that moment of genuine attention, of actual presence, you're no longer living in the past. You're here, now, available to whatever wants to emerge. This is why travelers often have breakthrough insights, why people who move to new cities report feeling more alive, why changing your environment can catalyze transformation. It's not the place. It's that the new place forces you out of your prediction mode and into actual perception mode. But here's the secret. You don't have to travel to activate this. You can do it right where you are, with people you've known for years, with situations you've been in 1,000 times. You just have to be willing to not know, to look at it for the first time, to behold instead of recognize. When you do this, and I mean really do it, not just think about doing it, something extraordinary happens. The person you thought you knew completely suddenly has depth you never noticed. They say something, and instead of hearing it through your filter of this is how they always are, you actually hear what they're saying, and it's different, it's new, they're new. The problem you've been wrestling with for months suddenly has an obvious solution, not because the solution wasn't there before, but because you weren't able to see it. You were too busy knowing what the problem was, knowing what you'd tried, knowing what was possible. Your body, which you've been treating as a fixed object with certain limitations, suddenly reveals capacities you didn't know it had. because you stopped telling it what it could and couldn't do. You stopped overlaying your past experience onto its present potential. This is what "behold, I make all things new" means. Not that the external reality suddenly changes, though it might appear that way, but that you're seeing it freshly, and in that fresh seeing, you're allowing it to be new. You're giving it permission to surprise you. You're giving reality room to move. There's something that dies when you embrace beginner's mind, something that might feel uncomfortable to let go of: your expertise, your accumulated knowledge, your sense of being the person that knows. For many people, this feels dangerous because in our culture, being the expert is power. It's status. It's security. It's how you prove your value, justify your position, maintain your identity. But expertise has a shadow side that nobody talks about. Expertise makes you blind. The more you know about something, the harder it becomes to see it freshly. The more you've mastered a field, the more you're trapped in the current paradigm of that field, the more credentials you accumulate, the more invested you become in the frameworks those credentials are based on. Real innovation rarely comes from the established experts. It comes from outsiders, from people who don't know enough to know what's supposed to be impossible, from people who ask naive questions that turn out to be profound, because they're seeing with beginner's mind. They haven't learned all the reasons why things can't be done differently. This doesn't mean knowledge is useless. Knowledge is a tool. But when you become identified with your knowledge, when your self-worth is wrapped up in being the person who knows, you've turned a tool into a cage. The master who has truly mastered knows that mastery includes the wisdom of perpetual beginner's mind. They've gone so deep into their field that they come out the other side, back into the not knowing, back into wonder, back into the recognition that every answer contains 1,000 new questions, back into awe. They've learned enough to know how much they don't know. This is the death I'm talking about, the death of the false expert, the death of the persona that claims certainty, the death of the identity that needs to be right. And it's only through this death that you can be reborn into seeing clearly. Because when you don't need to be right, you can afford to look at evidence that contradicts your beliefs. When you're not defending your expertise, you can admit when you're wrong. When you're not attached to knowing, you can be taught by everything and everyone. The universe becomes your teacher. Every moment becomes an opportunity to learn something you didn't know before. This is the ultimate power, not the power of domination or control, the power of infinite adaptability, the power of continuous transformation, the power to let reality remake you in every moment according to what is needed. You stop trying to force reality to fit your ideas about how it should be. You start dancing with what is actually here. And what's actually here is always more interesting, more creative, more abundant than anything you could have predicted from your limited knowing. So how do you actually do this? How do you see freshly when you've seen something 1,000 times? It starts with questioning your certainty. Every time you're absolutely sure about something, pause. Ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? What if there's something I'm not seeing? What if my certainty is blocking me from a truth that would serve me better? Not as a way to undermine yourself, but as a way to crack open your perception. You don't have to believe you're wrong. You just have to be willing to look again without the armor of your certainty. Try this with something small, something you think you know completely. Maybe it's your morning routine. You know how your morning goes? You've done it the same way for years, but what if you looked at it as if you were an anthropologist studying it for the first time? What would you notice? What patterns would you see? What purposes do these patterns serve? Are they serving you? Or are you serving them? Just asking the question changes something, opens a crack, lets in new light. Or try it with a person, someone you've known forever, someone you could describe with your eyes closed because you know exactly who they are and how they are. Next time you're with them, pretend you're meeting them for the first time. Watch how they move. Listen to how they speak. Notice things you've stopped noticing because you already know them. You'll be shocked at what you've been missing. All the ways they've changed that you haven't registered, all the complexity and depth that your knowing had flattened into caricature. This practice works with everything: your body, your home, your work, your problems, your relationships, your desires. What if you looked at your financial situation with beginner's mind? Forget everything you think you know about money, about your earning capacity, about what's realistic. Just look at the actual facts without the story. What would you see? What possibilities might emerge that your knowing has been blocking? What if you looked at your health without the accumulated story of what's wrong with you? What's always been this way? What runs in your family? What the doctors have told you? Just this body right now, with its current capacities and potentials. What might be available that your certainty about limitation has been refusing? What if you looked at a relationship that's stuck with completely fresh eyes, without the history of every fight, every disappointment, every way that you've been let down? Just this person right now in that moment. Who are they actually? When you're not seeing them through the lens of your accumulated hurt. Beginner's mind doesn't erase the past, but it refuses to let the past dictate what's possible now. Every moment is a new moment. Every person is capable of change. Every situation contains possibilities you haven't seen yet, but only if you're willing to look without already knowing what you're going to see. Here's another practice. Catch yourself in the act of recognition. Recognition is when you see something and immediately label it, categorize it, file it away based on past experience. Oh, this again. I know what this is. That moment. That's the moment where you stop seeing. That's where you choose prediction over perception. So catch it. Notice when you're doing it. And then gently, without making yourself wrong, choose to keep looking a little younger. To stay curious. To let the thing reveal more than your initial recognition allowed. You'll find that everything has depths you've never noticed. Every person contains multitudes. Every situation is more complex and interesting than your quick categorization suggested. The world gets richer, more textured, more alive. And you get more alive too because you're actually new, actually present, actually engaging with reality instead of just interacting with your mental models of reality. There's a reason spiritual tradition across cultures emphasize emptying this mind, letting go, releasing attachment. They're not talking about becoming stupid or passive. They're talking about unlearning the false certainties that separate you from direct experience of what is. The mystics understood that knowledge about the divine is different from direct knowing of the divine, that you can study scripture your whole life and never touch the truth those scriptures point toward, because the truth can only be experienced, never fully captured in concepts. If you follow Neville Goddard's teachings, at the end of his life, he's just talking about experiencing God, experiencing the divine, experiencing through imagination. His final realization was experience was where it was at. The same with reality creation. You can know all the techniques. You can understand all the principles. You can have the perfect affirmations and the clearest visualizations. But if you're approaching manifestation from a place of, I know what I want, I know what's possible, and I know how it should happen, you're blocking the very thing you're trying to create. Because the universe is infinitely more creative than your mind. It can deliver your desires in ways you could never predict, through pathways you never would have seen, in forms that exceed what you thought to ask for, but only if you're not so attached to your knowing that you can't recognize the gift when it arrives differently than expected. Beginner's mind in manifestation means holding your desires lightly, knowing what you want, but not knowing exactly how it will come, being clear about the essence of what you're creating, but flexible about the form. It means being willing to be surprised, to receive more than you asked for, to have your desires fulfilled in ways that teach you something about the nature of reality itself. The masters who manifest effortlessly are not the ones who have memorized the most techniques. They're the ones who hold everything lightly enough to let reality reorganize itself around their intention. They know without grasping. They're clear without being rigid. They're certain about their worthiness, but uncertain about the mechanism. That uncertainty, that not knowing how, that's not a weakness. That's the opening through which miracles enter. When you release the need to know how, you allow that how to emerge from the infinite intelligence of the universe rather than the limited problem-solving capacity of your conscious mind. Your conscious mind knows what it's seen before. It can only combine and recombine elements from past experiences. But the universe is always doing something new, always creating from the edge of possibility, always bringing forth what has never existed before. To receive that newness, you have to have space for it. You have to not be so full of your own knowing that there's no room for mystery to move. This is the spiritual discipline of beginner's mind, the continual practice of emptying yourself of certainty so you can be filled with fresh seeing. Not once, not as a one-time awakening, but moment by moment, day by day, in every encounter, in every situation. The practice of choosing curiosity over certainty, questions over answers, wonder over explanation. Here's where it gets really interesting. From a physics perspective, in quantum mechanics, the observer affects what is observed. The act of measurement collapses the wave function. Before you look, particles exist in a state of superposition, multiple possibilities simultaneously. Your observation selects which possibility becomes actual. What you're able to observe is limited by what you're looking for. If you approach an experiment knowing what you expect to see, you'll design it to detect that specific thing, and you'll find it. But you'll miss everything else that might have been there. The history of science is full of discoveries that were made by accident, by people who weren't looking for what they found, who were open to seeing something unexpected. Same principle applies to your life. When you think you know what's possible, you're only observing within that narrow band of possibility. You're collapsing the quantum field into a very limited set of outcomes because those are the only outcomes you're looking for. But when you don't know, when you approach your life with genuine not knowing, you become capable of observing possibilities that weren't available to your knowing mind. You're not collapsing the wave function prematurely. You're staying in a relationship with the full spectrum of potential. Something emerges that you couldn't have predicted. This is why somebody that is new to something, in music, in art, sometimes appears to be better than somebody that's stuck to it for a long time. This is why beginner's mind is so powerful for reality creation. You're not limiting what can show up. You're not forcing reality into the narrow channel of your expectations. You're allowing reality to surprise you. And reality loves to surprise those who are willing to be surprised. Think about the last time something amazing happened that you didn't see coming, that you couldn't have planned for, that came from completely outside your field of vision. That's the universe working with the full range of its creative capacity. That's what becomes possible when you're not controlling the outcome through your narrow knowing. Now imagine living your whole life in that space, where you're clear about your intentions but completely open about how they manifest, where you're certain about your worth but uncertain about what form your success will take, where you know you're creating your reality but you don't know what reality is going to create through you. That's the quantum dance. That's the co-creative partnership between you and the infinite. And it only works when you're willing to not know. Because knowing is a control mechanism. It's the ego trying to manage reality to protect you from uncertainty, to guarantee outcomes. But guaranteed outcomes are limited outcomes. They're outcomes from the past projected onto the future. New outcomes, unprecedented outcomes, miraculous outcomes. Those require uncertainty. They require space. They require not knowing. Let's talk about the story you've been telling about your life. You've got one, everyone does, a narrative about who you are, how you got here, what's happened to you, what it all means. This story feels true, feels like just an accurate account of facts, but it's not. It's an interpretation, one possible way of organizing the raw data of your experience into a coherent narrative. And the story you've been telling is shaping your future more powerfully than almost anything else, because you're unconsciously trying to maintain narrative coherence, trying to make your future match your past in a way that makes sense. If your story is "I'm someone who struggles with money," you'll keep creating situations that confirm that story. Not because you're doomed, not because you're trying to be consistent with your self-concept. If your story is relationships, always and badly for me, you'll unconsciously sabotage connections that could work out. Because if they didn't end badly, you'd have to revise your entire narrative about who you are. Your story feels like truth, but it's actually a prison. Beginner's mind applied to your own life story is revolutionary. What if you looked at your past as if you were reading from someone else? What if you were willing to interpret the same events differently? That thing you've always seen as your biggest failure, what if it was actually a necessary redirection? That relationship that broke your heart, what if it was clearing space for something better? That limitation you've carried as evidence of your unworthiness, what if it was actually developing strength you needed for your purpose? I'm not saying to create a false positive story. I'm saying to recognize that all stories are constructs, and if you're going to carry a story, you might as well carry one that empowers you rather than imprisons you. But here's the deeper move. What if you stopped needing a story at all? What if you could meet yourself freshly in each moment without the weight of your entire history defining what's possible now? What if this moment didn't need to make sense in relation to every moment that came before it? What if you could do something completely out of character and that was okay? What if you could change in ways that make your old story obsolete? Beginner's mind toward yourself means releasing the need to be consistent with who you've been, releasing the need to prove something about yourself through your choices, releasing the need to maintain an identity. You're not a fixed entity. You're a living process, a verb, not a noun, a continuous becoming, not a settled being. And every moment you can become something new. Behold, I make all things new, including you. There's a vulnerability in not knowing that most people avoid at all costs. When you don't know, you're exposed. You can't hide behind your expertise. You can't defend yourself with your certainty. You're just here, open, vulnerable to being surprised, corrected, transformed. This feels dangerous, and in some contexts, it is dangerous. There are situations where you need to trust your knowledge, where you need to act from expertise, where uncertainty could cause harm. But for most of your life, the danger is imagined, projected. A fear of being wrong, being seen as inadequate, losing control. And that fear keeps you locked in patterns that stopped serving you years ago. Radical openness means being willing to not know, even when it makes you uncomfortable, even when it threatens your identity, even when it means admitting you were wrong about something you've been certain about for decades. It means approaching conversations without already knowing what you're going to say, without planning your response while the other person is still talking, without waiting for your turn to insert your pre-prepared wisdom. What would happen if you just listened completely without trying to formulate your perspective while they're speaking? You might actually hear what they're saying. You might be changed by it. You might discover that their truth adds something to yours rather than threatening it. It means approaching problems without immediately jumping to solutions from your toolkit of past strategies. Without saying, I've dealt with this before, here's what you do. And that might work. What if you sat with the problem longer? What if you let it teach you something before you tried to fix it? What if the solution wanted to emerge from a place you haven't accessed yet? It means approaching your spiritual practice without assuming you understand what's happening, without comparing this meditation to past meditations, without evaluating whether you're doing it right. What if you just practiced? Without the meta-commentary, without the judge assessing your performance. Radical openness is exhausting at first. Your mind wants to grasp, categorize, know. It's uncomfortable to float in not knowing. But gradually you realize that the discomfort isn't from the not knowing itself, it's from the resisting the not knowing. It's from your identity's fear of dissolution. When you stop resisting, when you let yourself be genuinely open, there's a freedom in it that's intoxicating. You're no longer carrying the weight of having to know everything, predict everything, control everything. You're no longer defending positions. You're no longer maintaining consistency with past versions of yourself. You're just here, present, available, responsive. And from that space, you're capable of unprecedented activity because you're not limited to recombining what you already know. You're accessing the field of infinite intelligence that's always broadcasting, but that your knowing has been blocking. Solutions arrive that aren't yours. Insights emerge that came from nowhere. Synchronicities proliferate because you're not filtering them out with your predictions about what's supposed to happen. You become a channel for newness, a portal through which the universe can introduce novelty into form. So what does it actually look like to live from this space? Not as a practice you do sometimes, but as your default way of being. It looks like meeting each morning as if you've never lived a day before, not knowing what this day will bring, not assuming it will be like yesterday or the day before, letting this day be completely itself. It looks like walking into your home and actually seeing it, noticing things, appreciating things, as if you just moved in and everything is fresh and interesting. It looks like having a conversation with your partner or your kids or your parents without the accumulated weight of every past conversation. Meeting them right now in this moment as they actually are rather than as the memory of them. It looks like encountering obstacles without the story of this always happens to me, or I can't handle this, or here we go again. Just this situation right now with its particular characteristics and possibilities. It looks like approaching your work with curiosity about what wants to emerge today rather than repeating what worked yesterday. It looks like feeling an emotion without immediately naming it, explaining it, or trying to fix it. Just feeling it, allowing it, letting it move through you without making it mean something about who you are. It looks like looking in the mirror and seeing this face, this body, fresh, not through the filler of comparison to younger versions or idealized images, just this particular arrangement of matter that consciousness is currently expressing through. Beginner's mind doesn't mean forgetting. You will have access to memory, to accumulated wisdom, to lessons learned, but you're not imprisoned by them. You're not forcing every new moment to conform to past patterns. You're allowing what's here to be new, to teach you, to surprise you, to reorganize your understanding. And in that allowing, everything becomes alive again. The relationships that had gone stale suddenly have fresh energy. The work that had become routine suddenly reveals new dimensions. The body that had seemed fixed suddenly knows new capacities. Not because anything external changed, but because you're seeing freshly, and in your fresh seeing, you're giving reality permission to be different than it was before. You're participating in the eternal creative process, the continuous renewal, the perpetual newness that's the essential nature of existence. Behold, I make all things new. The universe is always saying this every moment, every breath, every surprise, every sunrise. The only question is whether you have the eyes to see it, whether you're willing to release your knowing long enough to behold what's actually here. I want you to notice what's happening in your awareness right now. There's probably been a shift, a loosening, a sense of space that wasn't there before. That's the beginner's mind activating. That's your consciousness remembering that it doesn't have to be bound by what it thought it knew. And here's what I want you to understand. This isn't a special state you achieved. This is your natural state. This is what's always available when you stop clutching your certainties. The work isn't to get somewhere you're not. The work is to stop doing this thing that's keeping you from where you already are. You don't have to learn beginner's mind. You have to unlearn expert mind. You have to stop pretending you know more than you do. Stop defending positions that no longer serve you. Stop being consistent with outdated versions of yourself. In the days ahead, you're going to catch yourself knowing, predicting, recognizing, running patterns. When you catch it, you had a choice. You can continue the pattern, or you can pause, look again, ask, what if I'm wrong about this? What am I not seeing? That pause, that's where the magic happens. That's the space where new possibilities enter. That's the moment where you can choose fresh, seeing new possibilities over habitual perception. Do it with small things at first. The route you drive, the food you eat, the way you organize your day. Watch what happens when you're willing to try something different, when you're willing to not know the outcome in advance, when you're willing to be surprised, then gradually expand it, bring it to relationships, to work, to your self-concept, to your understanding of what's possible for your life. And watch as reality reorganizes itself around your new seeing. Watch as solutions appear that weren't there before, as opportunities emerge from nowhere, as people show up who can help you in ways you didn't know you needed help. Watch as your body responds to being seen freshly, as your energy increases, as limitations you thought were permanent reveal themselves as optimal. Watch as joy returns, not the forced positivity kind of joy, the authentic delight that comes from actually being present to life instead of sleepwalking through your predictions about life. This is your birthright. This fresh seeing, this continuous renewal, this participation in the creative unfolding of existence. You're not a fixed point observing a fixed reality. You're a dynamic process engaging with a dynamic universe, and the moment you stop trying to know what everything is, you become available to what everything is becoming, including you, especially you. So here is what I want you to leave with. The universe is not a museum of finished objects. It's a continuous act of creation, an ongoing event, a perpetual emergence. It is constantly new, and you're not separate from that process. You're not an observer standing outside looking in. You're an essential participant, a co-creator, a node through which consciousness is exploring what it can become. But you can only fulfill that function when you're not locked into fixed knowing, when you're fluid enough to move with what's emerging, when you're empty enough to be filled with fresh seeing. Behold, I make all things new. This isn't a promise about some future state. It's a description of what's happening right now, every moment, every breath, every encounter, in this moment. The universe is making all things new, constantly, endlessly, effortlessly. The only question is whether you're participating in that renewal or resisting it with your need to already know. Today, you've remembered that you can choose, that you can release your grip on certainty and trust the intelligence that's animating all of existence, that you can look with fresh eyes, listen with fresh ears, feel with fresh hearts, that you can meet this moment as if you've never lived a moment before. And in that meeting, in that genuine presence, everything becomes possible again. The relationships that seemed dead can be revived. The dreams that seemed impossible can manifest. The person you thought you were can evolve into someone you never imagined. All because you were willing to not know. All because you chose beginner's mind over expert mind. All because you let yourself behold the newness that was always here, always waiting, always ready to reveal itself to those with eyes to see. Welcome to fresh seeing, to continuous renewal, to the life that becomes possible when you stop trying to control reality with your knowing, and start dancing with reality through your openness. The adventure is always beginning, right now in this moment. With fresh eyes, behold, I make all things new. Join the Reality Revolution tribe at www.school.com/reality revolution. We have exclusive content. We meet every week. We do meditations. We have the most incredible experiences, the most amazing people. Please join us. I would love to meet you there. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. I'd love it if you checked out my art. You can find it at www.newearth.art. Be sure to check out my second channel, The Brian Scott Musical Experience. You can find the link in the description. And welcome to The Reality Revolution. Welcome to The Reality Revolution. I'm Brian Scott, and I have a huge announcement. I'm so excited to finally let you know that on February 27th at the Newark Airport Hilton, we're holding a 3-day immersive meditative experience designed to create the most profound transformation possible. We created this event specifically because so many of you couldn't make it to the LA event. We got to work, and after looking everywhere, we found the Newark Airport Hilton to be the most central and reasonably priced location. You don't just learn about timeline shifting, you actually do it. You don't just understand the concepts philosophically, you embody them. On Friday, we start with activating your pineal gland, your gateway to higher consciousness. Then you meet your higher self and learn to quantum jump into your greatest timeline. And by the end of the day, you will do my most powerful meditation where you actually become your future self from that greatest timeline. We get together for a group karaoke and sing along and a community celebration because joy and connection are just as essential to your transformation as the deep work. This is your invitation to step into the life that's calling you forward. Let's do this together. I can't wait to meet you. Once again, it's www.brianscottlive.com/February-2026.